just attended a week-long retreat in New Brunswick, Canada. I think it changed my life. I know that sounds dramatic, but it's true. Of course, this life-changing experience started a couple of years ago. It included retreats in New Brunswick, along with a huge desire to get to the bottom of me. I felt stuck, and I really wasn't interested in living that way. The retreats were an integral part and served to help me let go of my stories and what was getting in my way. At some point, I realized I needed to stop looking for happiness and fulfillment in external sources. Of course, this can happen, but it's pretty short-lived. I realized that I needed to go within and discover what was getting in my way. I learned a tremendous amount about myself, all the whys and the whats and the hows of who I became. I began to have a better understanding of who I am, and through a mixture of awareness, acceptance, and letting go, I started to like myself. Then I realized that there was one more piece to the puzzle. I didn't love myself. Love yourself has been thrown around as a solution to everything. I'm sure I'm not the first person to wonder what that really means. I had a hard enough time liking myself. Now I've got to love myself? Do I love myself yet? I don't know. I'm getting there. My dear friend and coach sent me a poem by Charlie Chaplin that really explains what it means to love yourself. I couldn't even come close to it, so I'm just going to read it to you. As I began to love myself, I found that anguish and emotional suffering are only warning signs that I was living against my own truth. Today, I know this is authenticity. As I began to love myself, I understood how much it can offend somebody if I try to force my desires on this person, even though I knew the time was not right and the person was not ready for it, and even though this person was me. Today, I call it respect. As I began to love myself, I stopped craving for a different life, and I could see that everything that surrounded me was inviting me to grow. Today, I call it maturity. As I began to love myself, I understood that at any circumstance, I am in the right place at the right time, and everything happens at exactly the right moment. So I could be calm. Today, I call it self-confidence. As I began to love myself, I quit stealing my own time, and I stopped designing the huge projects for the future. Today, I only do what brings me joy and happiness, things I love to do, and that make my heart cheer, and I do them in my own way and in my own rhythm. Today, I call it simplicity. As I began to love myself, I freed myself of anything that is no good for my health, food, people, things, situations, and everything that drew me down and away from myself. At first, I called this attitude a healthy egoism. Today, I know it is love of oneself. As I began to love myself, I quit trying to always be right, and ever since, I was wrong less of the time. Today, I discovered that this is modesty. As I began to love myself, I refused to go on living in the past and worrying about the future. Now, I only live for the moment where everything is happening. Today, I live each day, day by day, and I call it fulfillment. As I began to love myself, I recognized that my mind can disturb me, and it can make me sick. But as I connected it to my heart, my mind became a valuable ally. Today, I call this connection wisdom of the heart. We no longer need to fear arguments, confrontations, or any kind of problems with ourselves or others. Even stars collide, and out of their crashing, new worlds are born. Today I know that is life. Thanks, Charlie Chaplin. I really just couldn't have said it any better. It really resonates with me, your poem, and I've shared it with a few people, and they all have the same reaction. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you about the retreat space that I mentioned earlier. It's called Tapestry. It was designed by Kathleen Holland, the founder of Age of Possibility. It's perched up on a hilltop overlooking the Bay of Fundy and surrounded by forest. Kathleen has exquisite taste and has designed a stunning retreat space. It's equal parts beautiful, peaceful, and magical. And the view, oh my God, it's just spectacular. Imagine waking up every morning to a tree-lined view of the bay. What better place to find yourself, get to know yourself, and let go of what's holding you back. And I can't forget the women that were at the retreat with me. There's Kim, who is so powerful, kind, compassionate, and generous of spirit. She's a sacred soul. She brings love and light and really helped me discover what is holding me back. And then there's Lynn, who I describe as a body seer. She's an intuitive healer and has such a beautiful heart. I call Jeanette Yoda, which I'm not sure she appreciates. She's a wisdom giver, and I feel like everything she says is thoughtful and profound. I know, well, at least I hope, she's going to write a book someday, and we will all be so grateful for that. Kathleen is a connector and visionary and holds space for all of us. We really hold space for each other. You'll meet one or two of them when you visit Tapestry. I hope you do. It's just magnificent. Thanks for listening. Take care. See you next time.